Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on WhoKnewPodcast.com. You can leave comments there or email us at WhoKnewPodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at WhoKnewPodcast. And find us on Facebook. Today's episode is Season 8 or Series 8, depending on what part of the planet you are from. This is the first full season with Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor and Jenna Coleman as the companion of the series. We'll be discussing all of Season 8 as a whole. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Shouldn't it be Clara as the Doctor? Anyway, hi, this is Frank.
Hi, this is Brian.
Hi, it's Josh.
Hey y'all, this is Kelsey.
Hello, this is Auburn.
All right, I know it feels like a long time ago, but Deep Breath was the first official episode of Season 8. That's the one with the Paternoster gang in Victorian London. We get the Doctor, Peter Capaldi, as the 12th Doctor, coming out of the Tardis all kind of dazed with the 11th Doctor's wardrobe still on and regeneration going kind of funky.
Does not feel like it's been the same season. Like
I
that
know.
seems like so long ago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it feels like such a different vibe of the show now too. Like
Yeah. I remember
I
enjoying
went back and
the
rewatched or re-listened to the different episodes because it does seem like such a long time ago. And so it's just interesting to see it again. You know, how and I wasn't watching it to take notes for this or anything. It was just to refresh my memory. And so it's just watching it or downloading on the phone, listening to it while driving. And it was a lot better than I remember it being, even after the second rewatch for this podcast. So that was
I think-
a surprise.
well, I remember talking about when we went over it, like we were all surprised at how well written it was and how funny it was. And then I was saying how like they kind of blow through the comedy so fast you don't even realize it's there. And he's so upset through the whole show. Like there's just this and he's acting weird and different. He seems like this crazy homeless man and stuff. And you know, Clara doesn't like him and things. So it just threw us all really off kilter, but really well written.
He's saying,
Yeah.
shut up a lot.
Yeah,
I think it's
remember.
Capaldi humor.
Yeah.
Some of his other things that he has done works with him.
I think it also is something that a lot of fans of Peter Capaldi who started with this season, he is their favorite Doctor. You know, as somebody who started with Eccleston, you know, I've had my issues with this season, but it is good that on rewatches, like we fall more in love with it, not like more in hate with it. So I think
Yeah,
that does
for
speak
sure.
to the strength of it.
Yeah.
Nice point.
And usually if we don't like the episode, we still really like him.
Yeah, oh yeah, very much. That's what I'm discovering.
And I remember really liking the end when
Yes.
the 11th Doctor calls Clara right before he regenerates into Capaldi, the 12th Doctor. And that being like, oh, is this what the season's going to be like? Where he's saying, as the 11th Doctor, you're scared, he's scared, help him, and, you know, just help him for me because I'm him and he is me. And I really like that. And we kind of never went back to that because that whole, am I a good man or what kind of man am I? Well, you're just kind of disgruntled throughout the whole thing. You're cranky.
Grumpy.
There's not grumpy and cranky. There's not a real existential crisis like, is this who I am? Is this who I am today? Is this who I am tomorrow? Is this who I will be? I was just thinking like this is a good overall arc for the Doctor, which we haven't really needed one for the Doctor because it's usually the companion that goes through the change.
Yeah.
Well, the Doctor does go through the change each time. It's like, what am I going to be? I remember Tennant's, you know, trying to figure out what type is he going to be. Is he sarcastic? Is he funny? Oh, that's rude. Am I a rude Doctor? So it was there, but this one, he focused on it more. He's like really doing more of it in depth for some reason, which I don't think really paid off with the whole good aspect because I don't think they defined what good was. And we can talk about it with different episodes when it keeps coming back. It just sort of, what are you trying to actually say? Because you're not defining it. What is the definition of good? It's good to kill Daleks. That's what you're saying. To be a good person, you kill Daleks. And then later on, in that episode, he sees the hate for the Daleks in the Doctor because they're merging. And now he wants to kill Daleks, but now he's bad because he wants to kill Daleks. So the idea of good, I mean, when he's asking Clara, it's like, she says, I don't know. Well, I wish they would have, and what do you mean by good? Are you trying to do what's right? Are you trying to do what's nice? No, he does not want to do what's nice. That's not being good. Being kind is being good. But they don't really go into it. They put it out there as a question without delving into it or even answering it. And it just seems convoluted to me. So that's one thing I did not like about Into the Dalek. It just, the premise of it wasn't right.
Yeah, and we're saying the same thing in different ways, because that transitions me to the second episode of the season, Into the Dalek, where the Dalek says, "You are a good Dalek." And so he's like, oh, do I need to rethink who I'm going to be as this doctor and as I'm regenerating, or I'm this new persona?
They tried to address it in the hold on one second. They tried to address it in Death in Heaven, where he's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not good, I'm not bad, I'm just an idiot. And it's like, there's a kernel of something really good in that they just didn't pay off right. You know, it's I'm just an idiot with a box. And one thing that, so there's you know, he's just like, oh, I'm not bad, I'm not good. And then basically he's like, I'm just a person, right? But he says it and he's like, oh, I'm just an idiot with a box and a screwdriver. Well, it's like, well, that's a cliche of Doctor Who. He's the idiot with the box. I mean, they've said that for decades. So it's like, well, you're just throwing a Doctor Whoism at us. I don't know. For me, it didn't have any impact, when it really could have if they had written it differently. I mean, I kind of like that. Am I a good man? Well, it's like, well, it depends.
Yeah. And even with the idiot in the box, and then there's, to me, it's like a meta thing of a madman in a box, which was one of the song tracks from Matt Smith's era.
The first two episodes I thought were interesting rewatching it, because the Clockwork droid wanted to become human so that he could get to the promised land.
Yeah, so I'm glad.
So the first episode they laid in, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's our first instance of what you're going to say.
Yeah, well, they set up nicely in the first episode, which I didn't really get before because they just don't follow up right. But they're talking about the mysterious woman with the lady in the shop giving the number, who set up the newspaper clipping. So they had started, I thought, with some good ideas. I was like, so I was really surprised how much I like Deep Breath better than I had in the past. Just a lot of times listening to it just for fun rather than trying to dissect it or find something in it. It's just, oh my gosh, they did do that.
Yeah. And then other than that, we have the first appearance of Courtney Woods in Deep Breath as well.
Right. Who inspires Clara, which is surprising.
Yeah. And then Into the Dalek, we have the first appearance of Danny Pink, where they go into Rusty. But Danny's not an official companion just yet. And there's also a, let's dub it the Missy tag,
right,
at the end of Into the Dalek.
One thing with Into the Dalek that I don't know is a foreshadowing or something they put down, but looking back on it, I think it was. It was when the doctor lets the one guy die. He can't stop it from happening, so he's trying to get it so they can all live. And he needs to do it now so they can follow where they put all the bodies, which is in that soup kind of thing. And so they're all down there in that sewerish looking thing. And his line was, you know, it's a good thing that we're here. And it's like, why? Because it's the weakest point. Nobody guards the dead. And to me, that's like, was that foreshadowing of the ending?
Whoa.
It was just like, that's a good, it has to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't catch that ever before. And it's just, okay, he did put things in there, which was nice. Didn't follow up, didn't put them, I don't know. It's, as we talk about it with the other episodes, I just don't think he added new things. He just kept saying the same thing over and over without any additional information.
Well, this is my problem with the way Moffat lays his breadcrumbs, if you will. It's like the doctor is saying, this is a sentence, like that's the line. Am I supposed to pay attention to this is, or this is a sentence? Like, what am I supposed to pay attention to? Where Bad Wolf, it came around every so often, or Vote Saxon was in the background. It wasn't like a spotlight on it. So when you talk about things like that, that's cool. But at the same time, when I'm watching, I'm like, I wouldn't have picked up on that at all.
So like what you were saying earlier, Frank, like the steampunk robot guy wanted to ascend or whatever to go to the promised land. How did he even know of the promised land? Like, am I forgetting something?
Because Missy has a Tardis, or so she can travel through time. She's been at different times in the doctor's life. And
so he has heard of it from her leaving evidence.
From what I get, and everybody else fill in, but it seemed like it's been as long as there's been people, Missy's been doing something like this, setting the groundwork for the Promised Land. So in essence, they were saying religion is just a plot of Missy's.
Mm.
And that's something that's not explicit, because that's what I figured out as well. It should have been spotlighted on a little bit more.
Because it seems like that Missy's was this master who just sort of dropped in at the end and did a bunch of stuff. But to think that it was more of this grand master plan from the beginning of humanity. What's that, Brian?
Oh, don't you mean Grand Mistress?
I mean, talk about a long game.
Yeah.
From the outside.
And I think,
What that's what I mean by from the outside.
I feel like that feels more master-like than it felt on the live watch of it.
Yeah.
That feels more like a mistress plot. But you don't get that till you deconstruct it afterwards. So
I think both the Missy plot and the Am I a Good Man plot like get interrupted with the whole soldier question that comes up and could have been like part of the Am I a Good Man, but I don't think they ever really connected it well enough to make it part of it.
I would even call it a soldier bias.
Well, but like it almost like they want to portray it as a soldier bias from the Doctor, but then all of the lessons that we learn are pro soldier. Like by the end, it's very, very like pro nationalistic, pro
patriotic
military. Yeah. Like
even the students were against the soldiers when they were talking about Clara and Danny being together.
But they weren't like, the students were also, I think in the Doctor Who universe, like they're not the model, right? Like they're also kind of like an other, or like somebody that's not the main character. Like I feel like we were supposed to see the world through almost Clara's eyes this whole season.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what they brought Courtney Woods on, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
The third episode is a Robot of Sherwood, where Clara gets sort of wish fulfillment, and she gets to see Robin Hood as if it were a real life, like the real version of Robin Hood in her history. And I don't know, I think when we discussed this, we didn't like how defiant the Doctor was for logic. He was just saying Robin Hood and the Merry Men are obviously fake. But then there's all this evidence that they're showing him that these are real people, and he's just not listening to it. So this is one I remember, I think I just watched it in the broadcast and never again until we did this podcast.
And rewatching it just so I can refresh my memory. It's a great idea, people.
It is.
Sometimes without actually trying to get anything from it. I picked up that the ship that crashed, that turned into the castle, and that they were trying to fix with all the gold, was trying to reach the Promised Land. I had forgotten about that, but that's like another, whose ship is it? They never really went to that, if it was the sheriff's. But he seemed like, no, he just wanted to take over the world. So it wasn't like his ship. So it was the other robots. Is it the same tie-in with the clock people? Or is it, but there's something totally different. They're not clock.
Yeah, so that's what's going on now, is that it's artificial people, or AI, if you will, that is being transported to the Promised Land. So that's what I originally thought it was. And since you rewatched it recently, Frank, do you remember if there's a Missy tag at the end of Robot of Sherwood? I don't think there is.
There is not.
So the only mention is when the Doctor is analyzing the ship, it says, its destination is the Promised Land. So that's the Missy tag that we get in this episode.
That's the throwaway line we're supposed to pay attention to.
So that's why you didn't get it, Josh, because it's very throwaway. There's a lot going on in that scene. It's crashing, it's blowing up, and yeah.
And I ended up really liking that episode too. I think this has been the most polarizing season for me of when I first watched it and then I second watched it. Now I quite like, now that I understand what they were doing and what was actually happening, and I think probably at the time, like we said, I had Matt Smith withdrawal. So like now that I'm used to the Capaldi and all this stuff and go back, very enjoyable.
And in this one, the Doctor comes out with all these different theories which are wrong, so I can't remember what really was happening. What was the final truth behind it? Was the ship affecting Robin so that he was a better archer because they wanted a foil for the sheriff? But then he goes, no, that was silly. That's not the way it's supposed to be. But then why was he able to split the arrow so many different ways without looking? Which was a funny scene when you just take it as trying to go more campy, trying to go more funny, farce. It just It was fun, but it didn't fit the story. It didn't explain it well enough. The doctor said later on, way too far, going, no, that was a remote control arrow that I used, but it didn't happen quick enough to get the joke with it. It's just sort of, well, I forgot about that. That was 20 minutes ago in this episode, and now you're running for your life, and you're like, no, that was just a remote control arrow. It didn't seem to blend right. And I think it's one of the ones that were so disjointed in how it, I think, first started as an idea and how it ended up, that something got lost along the process. And that's what I think the season seemed to have, a lot of things that just dropped in the stories because of the process, but just didn't come back together to try and tighten up the story. Yeah, I'm opinionated. Okay.
No. No, I agree.
And this was, just remind me again, this was Moffat's first series, like show running? Or
No,
was this the second?
he did 5, 6, and 7 with Matt Smith.
Oh, okay.
And then this is 8.
Huh.
So this is his 4th season.
Okay, then that's, yeah. It's not like just
No
coming
excuse.
in and finding something. Yeah. At this point, maybe it was just bored and trying to do too much. Or was there another project was he working on something else at this point as well? Like, is there?
Sherlock.
Yeah.
Okay.
A
Like
lot of
just,
energy went into Sherlock.
Okay. Just starting Sherlock at kind of the same time, or?
Oh, I don't remember.
Because I agree that there seems like there's a lot of like just barely missing things that would have helped.
Mm-hmm.
Sherlock was going on season 3 when this series 8 of Doctor Who was airing.
Well, that was the worst season.
So again, no excuses.
Yeah, I'll just caught up, I guess.
And then the next episode after that is Listen, where this is one of the, I think this is the first appearance of the young doctor, like a child doctor, because in season 3, we saw the Master, not the Doctor.
No, we saw both of them.
We saw both.
Are you sure?
Mhm.
Okay.
I remember them running to the,
I feel sure.
on the hill. I know, it could be our memories just filling it in.
I think they both looked into the...
They were running down towards it, and then they focused on the Master. But the two boys were there. I could be wrong.
I just remember definitely the close-up on the Master kid, or the kid before he becomes the Master. Anyway, but we get Clara going back in time to young Danny, or Rupert Pink, in an orphanage, and there's some sort of weird creature that the Doctor knows what to do, but doesn't know what the creature is. So it's really, the balance is off for me in this episode.
It's also another one where the Doctor throws out theories that, as an audience, we either say, yes, that's true, or not true, because they don't even give it to us in the show. But it's like, no, that was a kid. I mean, there's a debate going on. No, it was something. It's like, no. By the end of the episode, it looked like it was definitively what Clara was saying. No, there's a practical reason for it. It wasn't some unknown entity that we can't see.
The two things that I do like about this episode is the horror. Well, several things. The horror aspect of it, the way it's shot, and the way it connects with the Day of the Doctor, the 50th, where this is the shed that the young Doctor is in, that the War Doctor goes to activate the moment, the device.
Mhm.
And then the way that Capaldi, as the 12th Doctor, comforts young Rupert, saying that fear is a good thing. It's letting blood pump through your body. You can jump higher or run faster, so you are prepared. So that's your superpower, and I really like that.
Yes, I did until the rewatch, where those are Clara's words to him as a kid. So that's the thing, that this must be the time that Clara, for this Doctor, saves him. So she goes through his whole timeline. This one was kept for her primary life. Is all I'm trying to put together, which that way justifies it for me. Because if not, then she created Danny, the soldier man, by giving him that little plastic green army man, and created the Doctor by telling him this, by telling him also in her speech after the whole ankle, was that, fear doesn't need to, you never need to be cowardly. You need to be kind. It's like, this is the Doctor's big speech at the end that he gives that we love. It's like, it came from Clara. And it's just the importance of Clara overdone. But I'm trying to think, okay, this is just the one time in this reincarnation that she came in, but it was the life we're watching.
Well, it's
Whereas
also-
in the other times we just see those scenes where she's involved in it. We don't follow her life. So trying to put it that way so it doesn't get me upset, I guess.
Well, I am glad that you bring that up, because to me, this is kind of like Moffat's weird fascination with Jenna Coleman and Clara are kind of inseparable because of just how integral she is to the Doctor's life.
Yeah. Also to Danny's life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, his brain was scrambled, thought it was a dream, but when he meets her, you're just thinking there's some connection that he gets to the woman who saved him, subconsciously. And it's just like, ugh. It was just a weird episode. A lot of it was done well. I agree with you. So the acting, some of the camera work, the directing, it was done well. So I don't dislike this episode. It's just a lot in there that wasn't expanded or just left there. I want a little bit more direction sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely want some clarity as to
clarity.
What is the thing on the end of the bed. But the other thing I do like is that there are moments of humor, which I think offsets the horror. Like when the doctor is just sitting there in the room right before that creature goes on the bed, or after it goes on the bed, and they're kind of wondering what it is, and he's been there the whole time. It's just funny. And then when there's that caretaker, he stole his coffee, and he's like, weird stuff has been going on, and it's like my coffee's gone, and the next scene is the doctor sipping.
Yes.
See, I think I would have liked the ambiguity at the end, because you can have an episode like that. You can write an episode like that where you have questions at the end. You just need to set it up right, and it wasn't the proper payoff. And there's a part of me that, because I like Listen, there's a part of me that tries to retroactively go into my head canon of, well, this happened, so we can't have the ambiguity at the end.
Which aspect of the ambiguity are you referencing?
The whole thing. Was the doctor right that there were these creatures, or is it all just coincidence?
Well, that's what I mean. It was because we have the creature storyline, we have Danny's storyline, we have Clara's storyline, and the doctor's kind of integrated in all. So you're talking more about the creatures.
I'm talking more about, the creatures. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it in a specific term. I think of it more as like, the premise of this episode is the doctor thinks there's this alien race. I don't mind that at the end of the episode, we still don't know if that alien race exists, regardless of how we got there. In fact, I kind of think I wish we had gotten there in a different method, because that ambiguity doesn't pay off in the way that they presented it. Because I am just kind of like, well, which is it? Was there a kid under the blanket and all that kind of stuff? And I don't know. It's one of those things was like, don't analyze what we got too much. Just make up your own thing in your head to explain things. And then at the end, just be like, oh yeah, we'll never know.
Now I'm thinking, would that have been better if they got out of it and they're like, was that a dream or not? I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like, Inception.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
A movie I hate. Yeah. This all tracks. This all makes sense. Yes.
But there's that one scene where the blanket does come off slowly on the creature, and the way it's out of focus, you're like, that looks like a gray alien. So
yeah, but later on, don't they say, was it a kid in a mask?
Yeah. So it's just funny that they set it up, but then they explain it away in an unsatisfying way, I guess.
Well, and then the other thing too is like, hey, Rupert, in the 3 or 4 years that you lived in this place after their visit, did any kid ever go, ha, I scared you that one night? And who are those people in your room?
Eugene, I think you nailed it with the word unsatisfactory. Like, I think that's what, like, a lot of the episodes felt like on a first watch, and even, after a couple years, a second watch. Yeah, it's a good way to describe it.
They also introduced a character, and I don't know the reason why, Orson Pink.
Yeah.
It's, where was it going? It was telling us, yes, they're going to get together, and then they don't. Is that what the doctor tried to stop while he was saying, oh yeah, take that for the first date, or all this kind of stuff? And why bring him into it?
Yeah, I know. It even it reminds me of Back to the Future, I guess, 2, where he's like, what's wrong? It's like, it's your kids, Marty.
Right.
It's like, what is wrong with Orson that it would have been great that there was something wrong with Orson that the doctor had to prevent from him being born. I don't know. That's a completely different season.
Right. But some reason that they brought him in. I mean, it just seemed more like a psych out.
Yeah.
See, they're going to get together. Oh no, you're going to be shocked when he dies. So they don't have this kid. So this is an alternate future that never happens.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's sort of the ramifications of time travel. Like, there are things that are locked points, and then there are things that aren't. And rarely do we really see the consequences of an unlocked point in time. We just see the adventure,
Right. So, but they didn't really delve on it. They
didn't.
Just sort of,
yeah.
I don't know, I just wanted more. That's the season. Unsatisfactory, wanted more. Yeah. That's our little tag.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but
And I get it. This is a kids show, so this is not that what we are talking about as adults is not the focus for the audience.
Yeah, but I'm getting a little tired of that excuse, even though I've used that excuse a lot. It's just
Okay, then let
Yeah.
me say that this is an action adventure show. Like what we're talking
Sure.
about, like moral and ethical sort of existential crisis type of things
Yeah.
are not the main focus of an action adventure show.
Yeah, no, it's true, but that is the show they write. They blur that line a lot, and it's like they basically come up with a super heady Isaac Asimov story, and then say, okay, how can we do this for kids? And that's why I think it doesn't always work. Or like if they
Yeah.
have to cheap out on special effects, like it's okay, it's a kids show. Or we don't have to get that psychological with something. It'll just be there because kids aren't going to understand the explanation. But it's kind of like they keep feeding us this meal, but they don't really, the check never comes.
Like specifically with Listen, what 8-year-old would even know what's going on? Because if we're adults, if we're old folk, and we're sitting there going, what? The 8-year-old, I don't think there's enough there for a little kid to actually enjoy while all this other stuff is going on. There's no balance to it. Because I agree with you, Josh, where it's like, oh yeah, watch some of the episodes of Doctor Who and tell me it's a kid show. It's a show for everybody. Some episodes more, some episodes less.
Yes.
Yeah. That episode in particular is really creepy, and if I was a little kid, that's what I'm going to remember, how creeped out I was. And a lot of the other stuff that we're talking about that is good in the episode, it's all subtext, and kids don't understand subtext because they don't have the life experience to understand what it's referenced.
And there's no Missy tag in Listen either.
One thing, Josh,
Missy was under the blanket.
Could have been.
No, seriously.
Oh, that
think about it.
That fits.
Oh, looks like we've uncovered that.
Oh, but
Josh, going back to what you're saying about the whole exposition, we don't need that. In Dark Water, I think when Clara takes all the 7 keys and is going to destroy them, going, no, I saw my great-great-grandson. He's dead, and that doesn't happen. No, I've seen it in the future. You can fix it. Just that line or something where he goes, future does change. It's just something there would have made it work.
Yeah, just elaborating on it a little bit more.
I mean, you don't need a whole, like you said, you don't need a whole scene, doesn't need a whole thing. Just a line or two placed well with what her motivation is. Not only that she loves him, but she's seen the future with him.
And again, I know I'm a bit of a broken record with this, but so much happens in an episode. It's easy to either have something fly by you or just forget, because like by the time you're done thinking, or before you're done thinking, oh, that's really cool. Whoa, what's this new thing? It's just, there's so much going on. And
boy, they talk fast.
Yeah.
But
maybe these scripts are like 60 pages or more, and it's just like, all right, the only way we can do this now, we've cut it down as much as we can. Talk faster,
more intense.
faster, more intense.
The force is strong with this one.
Okay. I'm sorry. I've been thinking about it. Hear me out. Missy is the one outside Orson's space pod doing the banging
with her umbrella.
Yeah. Missy, being a Time Lord, can get, it's the Master. So of course, whenever they need it in the script, the Master can get in the TARDIS. Missy moves the chalk. Missy. Oh,
so she's screwing with him.
Yeah. She's setting him all up for this whole thing.
See, that would have been a good Kaiser Soze reveal.
That would have been much better if by the end of this season she was the mastermind behind everything. That would have made so much more sense.
Oh, that would have been fun.
Man, that would have been really menacing. It would have been really good.
Yeah, and it would have been like, because the thing about the Master is the seasons that he's in, he kind of encapsulates the whole season, and she just really just had weight at the last couple episodes, so that would have kind of made her more a part of the whole season.
So write it, Brian.
I don't, write it. Well,
Yeah.
I do want to say though, I don't know if everybody's going to get this joke, but I know some of you will. That means that it was Missy all along. I'm
Wait,
sorry,
wait.
I'm loving this.
What is that from?
That is from WandaVision.
Agatha.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, yeah.
It was Agatha all along.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
I'm
one
loving
thing
this.
that needs to be balanced. One thing that, Josh, the balance of trying to do a season over arc story in individual stories. And that's where you had said earlier, and so that's where it's not working right. You got to tell us some of these things. When it's episodic, you can cut things out because it's more encapsulated. And that's what it seemed like with a lot of the Missy things were just thrown in as an end, not really woven in.
Yeah.
So going back and seeing some of these things I thought were great when he's saying no one watches the dead and all that type of stuff about him wanting to become human, because all the other Clockwork people just ceased to exist. He was tied to him. Once he actually died and had become human, he was able to go to the promised land. So I mean, having those things are good, but just having some of the Missy things at the end didn't give any more information. It was just thrown in as a tag. Let's go, oh yeah, that's right, there's a season arc we have to somehow do.
Okay, don't forget.
What?
No, I was just saying, it's like, hey, don't forget, remember this thing.
I wonder, and I'd love to know what people's opinions on this is. During the time of Listen, how much do you think they had actually specifically plotted out to happen for the rest of the season? I'm sure they kind of knew that Missy was going to be, the necromancer rising people from the dead. But did they know specifically what was going to happen with Danny? Did they know it was going to, how Clara was going to fit into all this? Or do you think it was just kind of like they made it up and it just, if they had had more of a plan, it might have worked out better?
In general, writers' rooms, they beat out the whole season before they start writing scripts. Like they have it up on a board, like just in really broad strokes what happens. I don't know if they did that here, or they did it so vaguely that they maybe got lost, like you're saying. So I don't know, but that's how usually it's done.
It usually is, because Eugene,
Over
you remember in the writer's tale,
Yeah.
Russell had no idea.
Well, he also had meetings where he knew where to put certain things. Like he knew at least Bad Wolf, where with now what we're seeing with Moffat in this first season of Capaldi's, it feels like ideas were more improvisational, because Courtney Woods, what was the point of her? She kind of just disappears after Kill the Moon. It would have been logical if she showed up in the Forest of the Night, but it's a completely different
age group.
It's also a different class
Yeah.
than we've been accustomed to. And then with Orson Pink, it feels like another thing. Let's spend a couple episodes with this character and never see him again.
Yeah.
So it feels like all these things that Moffat wants to bring up are dropped.
I think they bit off a little bit more than they could chew. They have a lot packed into this season, especially with a new Doctor.
And they also lost an episode. This is 12 episodes as opposed to 13.
Oh, why was that?
I don't know, but this is the first time we've had one less episode.
Yeah, the BBC is being cheap at this point.
And
See, let's explain
by the way,
everything episode.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
It's the recap episode. It's the third one from the end. That's recap
It's
episode.
the Christmas. It's the Christmas exposition.
Right.
But yeah, back to the writer's tale, the book about Russell writing and all of his time on his era, his first era, as it were. I feel like he did a lot more thinking of how he can make it work, as opposed to let's just go with what feels good and in the moment, which I feel is sort of what's going on in this season.
But if I'm remembering correctly, the Dr. Donna bit at the end of season 4, he had no idea. That just kind of came about at the last minute. And he was like, oh my, hey, the Ood said the Dr. Donna. I can build on that. While he was writing that episode, that wasn't planned. So it's just kind of like, I just kind of look at this episode and go, it just seems kind of sloppy. And Moffat is such a good writer when he's on. It's like, what was happening in production that made this season sloppy? It could be that they were getting pressure from the BBC because the BBC hated Capaldi's Doctor.
All right, the 5th episode in the season is Time Heist. This is the one where it's a caper and the Doctor has to have a sort of ragtaggy team go into the world's most secure vault and get something out of it.
Well, speaking of a kids show, the whole teller with the soup and the brain dome thing that sticks with you. It's a good image.
It's a bit much.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's good for kids. I think some of them would go, "Oh my god, that's so cool," and some would just be so disgusted and hide behind the sofa. I thought it was so overly dramatic. I thought that was kids would be affected by it, and I thought I was good with that.
Plus, the creature is so cool looking.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time on that prosthetic.
They did, yeah.
Oh, even Capaldi mentions how good it looked when it first was on set, and they're like, "Oh, we can actually react to something."
I feel overall this is an episode that, because I like heist movies, so this is one of them that it's like, I will sit down and enjoy the ride, but you shouldn't analyze it.
Yeah.
Even though we have a podcast that does that, this is
Yeah,
just one of those, have fun with it.
Well, I found what's most impressive looking back on that episode is how minimal the action and sets are. Like, really, I know it's got the sci-fi elements and stuff, but they're obviously using the same two hallways. It's all of the tension comes from dialogue and them explaining the situation that they're in. And I'm saying it's good. It's impressive to not have to rely on, look, they're about to fall off a cliff or this, that, the other. It's like they could die at any moment, but they're just sitting in front of a console in a hallway. They do get shot at. I mean, that's true. But even that, it's like it's very basic, all the 80s lighting, stuff like that. But it's impressive.
I did like it. I thought it was intense or interesting story. And I liked it. I wish the ending would have been a little more spoon-fed to me. It just was like either a snippet of what they did before when they were recording that dialogue to themselves is of my free will, erasing my memory, just to give a little bit more why he's doing it. It was told to us. I guess I wanted it shown, like Eugene usually says.
Yep.
So you kind of got it, but with everything else going on, it seemed the important definition was being lost of what was actually happening or why he did it. It was there, you get it, but you didn't get the emotional part of it, I guess. When the doctor figures out who the architect is, it's like, we know this. And so that was a nice callback that the doctor hates himself. You know, the whole dream doctor and other things where he can see the dark side of him and that he doesn't like. So it's kind of like, okay, I like that.
And the time heist was our first unanimous categorization of an episode. We all voted it into casual.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's the first time this has happened in a while.
It's kind of fun. I noticed this, and I think like we do our podcast episodes and we watch it twice and we analyze it, we take notes and we see all this kind of stuff. And we like it or dislike it, but then you watch it again without analyzing it, and suddenly it's just a lot more fun to watch.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are some great scenes in all of these episodes that I just don't really think about because of the whole overarch story and what happens in the whole episode. But taking some of the stuff out of each one is some great scenes, some great dialogue, some great acting, some great shots. I mean, it's just, you can appreciate that.
Yeah, my view on the season is very complicated, but it also has changed.
Yeah,
and I wish I could go through, if I had the ability, I want to go through every one of Capaldi's episodes and just take scenes that he's in and cut everything else. Because honestly, I'm amazed at his acting, And I know it's like the first time you watch, it's like, oh yeah, he's a really good actor. But now it's just kind of like, wait, he did like 6 emotions in that one facial move.
There was that one spot, I can't remember which episode, I think it's the next one, that we paused because something was going on.
Oh, yeah.
It had Danny, the doctor, and Clara just frozen on screen. I was looking, and all of their faces were so different and so expressive about, oh my God, they're each feeling something so different. And just that one pause, just randomly.
It was great. I'm so pissed I didn't take a photo of it.
Also in time.
Just to be clear, there are still problems with this season. I think we're all seeing the good stuff because we had talked about all the negative in a lot of the individual episodes and how we came into it. But there are still the problems. There are still the issues with it.
Yeah.
So
we were just ragging on the issues for about 20 minutes.
I know, but it's like, that was one episode, but I'm thinking the whole thing, the way I'm sounding at least. It's like, I really like it, but it's like, no, this isn't my favorite season. These aren't some of my favorite, but there are some really good things in there that get overlooked by some of the others. And so there's still the flaws in there, and I still see them. But at least I've learned now that I can appreciate other aspects of it.
Yeah, and the last thing on Time Heist, there is no Missy tag, where it feels like there should have been. The
Who
sixth
died?
episode.
The sunken head guy.
All the people that were guilty of thinking bad thoughts.
And
Okay.
Ms. Clara Braxos. The whole thing started with her on her deathbed, following the doctor.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So having her would have been a great ending to it, where she's going to the promised land after this.
Right, and the 6th episode is The Caretaker, where the doctor disguises himself as the caretaker at the Coal Hill School, and he thinks that this disguise of putting on a new jacket is really working. And besides that, there is a Skullbox Blitzer that is threatening the students at the school and the school in general. So that's why the doctor is there to figure out what's going on with this kind of rogue war machine, shall we say.
And Danny
this
can really
episode.
jump.
Yeah. This is there is a Missy tag at this one. This is the first time we see a person that is a non-artificial person. This is the police constable that goes in to look after those delinquent kids and then wanders into the abandoned derelict building. So this one was the one where I go, oh, what's going on? For me anyway, like what's going on with this ending? Promised Land was, I thought, for robots and artificial people, and then now it's a real person. And this is also the first time we see Seb, who is also with Missy in the Promised Land.
I remember talking at the. Sorry.
Never mind. Go ahead.
He's the person who takes you in and questionnaire and all that.
Right. Okay.
But this, I remember, it's only halfway through the season, and so for us, it wasn't that long of a time period from when Danny first came in the second episode. But I remember all these discussions, all this going, well, they really escalated their relationship really quickly, and a lot of people don't get that line. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
Rick really likes this episode.
That with Courtney, the parents had talked to Danny saying, last year you said she was this. Now she's only partly that. So she's making improvement. So that means Danny's been there for over a year, at least.
Yep.
So it could have been longer. So he and Clara have had all that time off screen that we never saw. And we talked about it in the episode, that's why she was able to say, I love him. And for the first time they met, they went on a date, you know? So they set up for that. So they've been interested in each other, dating each other for at least a year. So it's not surprising that it could have grown that far, but it was just a huge jump for the relationship for us as an audience watching it, because it wasn't really laid out how long it's actually been.
And you had to be really paying attention to get that line from their parent-teacher conference meetings.
Because you go for the joke.
Yeah.
Well, so she's improving.
Yeah.
You said really irritating, not just irritating. Okay.
Maybe that was the episode, the 13th episode that they had to take out.
It's just a dating montage for 40 minutes.
Yeah. Well, it could have covered the ground of that relationship, you know, or addressed it.
We talked about the episode about, rather than just having them see on other dates, having them be time for specific, as in Christmas or different holidays.
Yeah.
Or birthday party or someone's birth of a kid thing.
Yeah.
You know.
That's true, because the dates were they could have been the same month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way it was edited, yeah. Like if you had the seasonal stuff like Halloween, that's a marker in the year for time. And then Christmas is another one, and lost opportunity there.
Flag Day.
Yeah. Boxing Day.
It never, I mean, this is kind of funny for a time travel show, but it never really mattered before with the companion of where in the companions, how long had the companion been doing this?
Until
a little bit, Amy.
But until we
it's
get
been 12 months.
But until we get the part-time companion, that's when
the part-time companion.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. And
yes.
So it's like we're not used to it. And I don't like it, but that's beside the point. But like, at least, you know, we're not expecting it, so at least explain it to us. Spoon feed it to us the first time.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, oh, it's been a year. Okay. Because I think we're also kind of used, like, if you watch it weekly, you kind of feel a week has passed.
Right.
And it's just a week, which is total BS, but it's just kind of how you feel about it. So
unless they specify.
Yeah, unless they specify. So it really is like it's a year later. I mean, they do it better with Amy and Rory, but even with Amy and Rory, it's like, you've been traveling with him for 10 years.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it.
No. It kind of feels like it when you rewatch, but not when you initially watch. It's like, okay. And then with Clara, it's like, apparently it's been so long she's had time to go to university and get her schooling degree.
That's just an aspect of her life we didn't know yet. Because I like Clara. So I was like, okay, she's already going to that while she's babysitting the kids. That's why it's helping her to stay home. She can work on the computer while watching them and doesn't have to go to a different 9-to-5 job where she can't spend that time going through the homework or doing the work at university. So it's like, okay, that gives her a little more freedom. That's how I justify it, at least.
Okay. And she was also a part-time perfume model too.
And then eventually she'll get a waitressing job at a diner.
Yes.
Also, something flexible when you're going to school.
Now that you brought that up, thinking about this season, they could have peppered in certain things like her haircut. It changes almost every episode, but we as watchers of the show attribute it to the time travel aspect. Like, you have to sort of blend in. Like the Mummy on the Orient Express, she's wearing like a more period appropriate, like 20s 30s hairstyle, and then in Robot of Sherwood it's longer because of that time period as well. So we could have done something with that to show passage of time in her modern day job.
Just something.
Just, yeah, we needed some, like an anchor point, like a Jackie or a Mickey that allows us to give exposition, like, oh, it's been a year, it's been 12 months, it's been whatever. So the next episode 7, is Kill the Moon. This is where the Doctor takes Courtney Woods on her, I guess, second trip in the TARDIS, and they go far into the future where the moon is hatching because it's an egg and it's causing a lot of Earth disturbances.
Well, it's not far in the future, but
2049, wasn't it?
yeah, it's closer than it feels.
Yeah, I know.
This one and Forest of the Night, we get like these big events that the TARDIS crew is there for, but they don't really like affect the natural events.
Yeah.
So like there
was the potential to affect it.
Yeah, but they didn't.
But
that was the whole point of the episode.
Yeah.
It's funny, those two episodes that you brought up, Auburn, they're like the Raiders of the Lost Ark effect.
Yeah.
I have contention with that.
Okay.
Raiders of the Lost Ark effect. I don't know if we wanted to digress about that right now, though.
Later, because we could probably go on hours for that, because that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good debate.
And I want to watch the movie again right before we did.
But I think I'm in the minority where I like Kill the Moon a little bit more than everybody here, and I can't really explain why. I think it's the Doctor being the Doctor for me, and he hasn't been the Doctor that I am used to in the previous episodes.
The science is
It is, yeah. I acknowledge that.
I ended up liking it again more on second watch, and I don't think I did. I disliked the episode overall, but the agenda of that they had with that issue of reproductive rights was just so weighty, and to me it took away from the fact that this is it just felt like it had too much of an agenda, and makes it a little hard for me to kind of like sit back and enjoy it.
But I thought the debate was even more than that. In that I wanted more of the debate. The whole idea of, do you kill baby Hitler?
Right.
Because you know what's going to happen. So the whole moral debate, I wanted more.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where they were taking that debate literally, but it was obviously a metaphor for today-ish, even because it was a few years ago, today's society about it. Just making a point. Because I do say that a lot. And I actually don't even think it made what I was impressed with it this last time I watched it was heavily laying out that agenda, but it didn't take sides, which was the point they were trying to make. Like, this isn't a they're right, they're wrong thing. This is a horrible situation.
To me, they didn't show the devastation on Earth. They didn't show all the people who have already died. All the children, babies who have died because the moon is doing this.
Think about the children.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, that's the whole thing. Do we have one
but it's true.
life?
I agree with you, Frank.
It's like, but what about the lives that it killed to get to this point?
And I don't disagree with you, Josh.
Yeah, I'm forgetting a few of the details like you're just talking about right now, so I'd have to watch it again. But you get my drift. Like, it was just
I do. It
was so obvious what the subtext was, the societal subtext. It kept it's not that it was bad, it just kept taking me out of it. But the episode itself, enjoyed a hell of a lot more, just like the other ones, than I did originally.
There's no Missy tag for Kill the Moon either.
Is that 3 in a row?
You would think that the moon would just have shown up in the Promised Land.
Right.
We're gonna need a bigger Promised Land.
No, it becomes a nether sphere itself. That's it.
There you go.
We now have a
shell.
place to house them.
No, Auburn, police constable was with Missy and the caretaker.
Oh, okay.
Then next one, episode 8 is Mummy on the Orient Express. Clara reconsiders her decision to resume traveling with the doctor, and they go on board this train in space where there is a mummy that is killing people 66 seconds before the mummy appears 66 seconds before that person dies. And so the doctor is trying to find out what's going on.
I do like this one.
I liked it better. I originally did not like this episode.
It is kind of silly in a way, but I remember when I originally watched the run, I was like, that was surprisingly good. It just felt like a Doctor Who episode, which is essentially a Twilight Zone.
I think this is what I called the death of Danny Pink, or Orson Pink, the
Orson.
death of Orson Pink.
Yeah.
Because she gives up to her addiction and goes to the doctor and lies to Danny, and it's like, this is where she made the change. This is where history changed.
Yeah, and I think my initial reaction of not liking this episode is that from Kill the Moon, Clara is really upset with the doctor and is just like, how dare you put me in this position? You're my friend. For next week, we tuned in for Mummy on the Orient Express, and they're like going on the one last hurrah sort of thing. I was like, I needed an episode. Personally, I just needed that time to kind of digest what happened, or I wanted the characters to digest what happened.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would have been good.
this is like really starts to hurt Claire's character because of so much like lies and falsehoods and back and forth. Like, I think as an audience member, you want to have a more clear expectation and of a character's decisions. Like, you want to like be able to predict them, and so when they start to become unpredictable and just like contrary, it's hard to continue to root for that character.
Mm-hmm. Because then it's the consistency thing. People have to be consistent with their character so that they can change over time. And
To me, I had no problem with it.
there was no Missy tag at Mummy on the Orient Express. It felt like there could have been one there too.
The soldier finally
Yeah.
being released
Yeah.
from the mummy.
Oh,
Well,
man.
and all the victims.
Unless if all of them were holograms,
Oh, yeah.
which again was very inconsistent logic. I'm like,
well, those people who died got disintegrated, though, eh?
even the police constable got disintegrated by the Skovax Blitzer.
Okay.
So it's inconsistent.
Yeah.
They did get in the "Are you my mummy?" line.
Oh yeah, the callback.
Yeah.
That was good.
It was a good episode. It was fun.
Again, one that I enjoyed more revisiting. The next up is Flatline. This is the one where it is the Dr. Light episode, where Clara meets Rigsy, a graffiti artist that is going on community service, and we find out that there is a two-dimensional alien species that is crossing over into 3 dimensions with murderous consequences, let's say.
Is it really a Dr. Light episode? I mean, he's only in one location, but he's in it throughout, like constantly.
I think for a Dr. Light episode, they really disguised it well.
But I thought it was a great episode. I love the all the visual gags. I really love the visual gags of the monster of the week, but even just the small Tardis and all the things that went on with that, and, her purse.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this one was one I definitely remember enjoying, and then revisiting it, and still enjoyed it equally, if not more. I like especially they're called the boneless, when they finally put on like the skin of their victims. It looks very much like a stop motion Harryhausen horror type of thing, and I like that homage, unintentional or intentional.
And they're
I
all
enjoyed
flat, but I could just hear them going, "Look, we did it. We're just 3-dimensional like that." they won't even tell the difference. Yeah.
This one we had mostly new. We would recommend for a new viewer, except for Frank that put it into a casual.
I could change mine. I remember, even at the time, it was like I was back and forth. But it's I think, pretty good standalone. So I could definitely agree the new would be okay. I have to go back and listen to what my arguments were.
Was there a Missy tag? Did we say?
Oh yes, there is a Missy tag, but this one is completely with Missy looking at Clara through some sort of security feed that is like right there on the TARDIS somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a camera, it's like really close on Clara.
Right. So that proves that supports your theory.
Brian's theory?
Right?
No, your theory. Oh, Brian's theory. Yeah. Brian's theory.
Thanks for catching up.
You're all
It's
in the
Missy
same
all
spot.
along.
Yes.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Don't go any longer than that. We have to pay.
That's true. But who would we pay? The Munsters producers or the WandaVision producers?
Or if we did the thing, the Addams Family producers for Flatline with the hand moving the TARDIS.
Oh, right. That's right.
All right. The 10th episode of the season is In the Forest of the Night, where
Next.
where Danny and Clara take a group of school kids to sleep over in a museum, and when they wake up, the whole world has been invaded by forest trees.
Not
So is Courtney
familiar.
now graduated? Like how much
Yeah.
time has gone by now?
Like I said before, I like this episode, except and I, as much as I dislike the last 2 minutes with the sister in the bush.
Yeah, that was such a tag, if there ever was a tag.
I think it's very funny. A lot of great comedic cinematography, comedic acting. The kids were funny. I get what you guys are saying what you don't like about it and stuff, but it didn't bother me. So I found it to be a fun episode.
I remember not liking this episode first time I watched it, but it was passable revisiting it.
I can't stand this episode.
I think this one was more created for younger viewers.
This could have been a point where they could explain passage of time, why now Clara and Danny have, I guess, a joint class or different students with them. But whatever.
Definitely felt late in the game for their relationship stuff. Like,
Yes.
yeah. But yeah, weird episode. And I guess it could have been put a couple different places. But yeah, hard with the kids not being the same kids that we've seen
Yeah,
earlier.
it definitely feels weird that Courtney is not part of this field trip, if you will.
I didn't like any of those other kids, so I was happy to see new ones. I enjoyed all these kids. Courtney and the other. I mean, Courtney's last episode was a lot better with her and stuff, but I just found them kind of grating.
Well, it definitely felt like we went from that realistic, more gritty British high school to a more pop sitcom type of student. Like,
Yeah.
Grade school.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they were grade school.
Well, like any of these kids that are in this museum field trip, I feel like if they had been earlier in the Courtney Woods position, it would have been a better payoff. I personally would have liked to see Clara's reasons for being attracted to Danny earlier in the season. Like to have it this late in the game feels it's again too late.
Right.
And
That's a good point. I like that.
you could have even had the one girl's sister disappear in an earlier episode
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
pay it off later. Like,
Yeah.
Or he could have just left it out because it didn't
Yes.
add anything.
yeah.
Except
But it-
confusion.
yes.
But Auburn, you're right. It seems odd that they had two world-ending episodes in this season. That's not part of the main episode, not
Yeah.
part of the overall arc.
Dark, yeah.
Moffat was working through something. This
Mhm.
I don't know what.
I do also remember the third season of Sherlock it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
The fourth
No,
season
I
was
can't-
worse, but the third season, yeesh.
Oh, I thought so. There were 4 seasons. Whatever the last season was,
The last season was
I'm-
terrible. That was the fourth.
which was the one with the sister.
Fourth.
Yeah, nah. I was trying to convince myself it's still okay, just different. But then halfway through, I'm like, this is not any good. I just want to know how it ends. So I kept watching.
All right, I'll do the last 2 episodes as one because that's how they're listed. Dark Water is episode 11 and Death in Heaven is episode 12. This is where we find out that Missy is behind everything and she is reviving or making her versions of Cybermen using all of the dead people from Earth. Like all of the people that have died on Earth are now been cyberized. And then Death in Heaven is where Danny is fighting the cyberization, and yeah. And then we get a bad cameo of the Brigadier.
Overall, I love Missy Gomez, Michelle
Yes.
Gomez. I think I kind of feel like we talked about it, the second episode has more shortcomings than the first and stuff, but like the good parts of this episode arc and her compensate for it to me.
Yeah, she really chews the scenery really well.
Yeah, you just want more.
That could have been really unbearable to watch with a bad actor.
Yeah.
But she's able to pull it off.
Yeah, very much so.
So we put Dark Water, all of us put into Die Hard, and I think it's because of the all the knowledge you have to know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I specifically put into Die Hard because of the homages and the tributes that they did to Classic Who with the Tomb of the Cybermen kind of set up and all of that stuff. So there's a lot going on for longtime Whovians in Dark Water. And then in Death of Heaven, does it live up to the promises set up in the first half, which is Dark Water? We all said yes.
I think I said sure.
Yeah.
And yes, it does live up to it, but it was a way I didn't want it to.
Yes.
You know, it was a sad ending for a series.
And then they recreated the Cybermen marching off of is it St. Paul's Cathedral?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's something that you wouldn't know if you were not a classic Who watcher. Yeah, but this season's finale was not my favorite.
It's kind of sad that if they did have Missy shoot all of her stuff at the end, or Michelle Gomez shoot all of her Missy stuff kind of towards the end of production before airing started, I wish the final reveal was teased a little bit better in some of those.
You mean you're not talking about Dark Water when she reveals who she is?
I'm talking about like the reveal of it being the Nether Sphere and the Cybermen, like something a little bit more those early ones where they were going to the Promised Land, like that we could look back later and be like, oh, there's that symbol, like, or oh, there's that, but because it does make it feel like, at least having not gone back for another time and rewatched, they do feel very separated, like the idea of the Promised Land at the beginning of the season compared to what it becomes in this finale.
Yeah,
I agree.
Which again kind of makes me wonder, how much did they know when they started writing the season?
Yeah, because if you take Death in Heaven and Deep Breath, I feel like they're in two separate seasons.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel very... Oh, excuse me. That's right, we're recording a show. It doesn't feel... The whole season overall, I like much better the second time now that I've watched it, but it is not even.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very much.
By any means.
Yes, totally agree.
It's like it's an EKG of someone having a heart attack. Not that I want it to flatline.
See, yeah.
Now, because of what you said, Eugene, I kind of want to watch Deep Breath and Death in Heaven back to back. Looks like, even cutting out Dark Water. I just want to see the first and last and going, what was this season? I want to do that. I got to watch it back to back now.
I mean, you're going to get the tag of the Promised Land, but that's about it. As far as like similar, connected to.
Right. No, I agree with you. I want to see it.
It's really weird because, like we were saying, that Deep Breath has such a different vibe of the show, and I would say, what is it? Heaven? What?
Death in Heaven.
And I would say Death in Heaven feels like Doctor Who. It just feels like a Doctor Who episode.
I think I agree with that. Yeah.
And not in a bad way. It's just that really reminds me of the last Saxon episode. It has that feel. Things are taking over the world. There's a bunch of Cybermen. Someone's in charge. Master's in charge. Blah blah. There's all this running around. Heroic actions by whoever they may be, and then just the style of the cinematography and stuff like that. It just felt like a good old Doctor Who episode. But Deep Breath was like, what is this? Who is that? What is happening? When it first aired.
See, I still love that about Deep Breath. I love the fact.
I do.
Again, by the way, ambiguity. This is a great example of ambiguity. Did he push the guy or did the guy fall? I like that we don't know.
Oh, and Deep Breath.
He got pushed.
Yeah.
But I like that we don't know. It's kind of like, okay, we're going for a different kind of doctor, And then they really didn't follow up on that.
Yeah.
They chickened out. They really
Mhm.
chickened out.
Yeah, no, to your point, Brian, I really like that episode now. Deep breath.
Yeah.
But it threw me for a real loop. And I think it, and right, coming off of Matt Smith, who I think I binged those episodes, when I was watching them, and it kind of like set me up not to like the next few, which is why I think I had that experience.
Yeah. I mean, it was the time period that happens with every doctor where it's like, you're not Matt Smith.
Yeah.
You're not the
It's a
previous
brilliant-
doctor.
I know they didn't set out to do the regeneration thing originally, but like it's a brilliant device for television makers, but it does come with those consequences.
I was just looking at the Wikipedia article, and it does have In the Forest of the Night as the last block of production in the series. And also interesting that just looking at the director, writer, producer of it, they are not like involved with the other episodes, where many of the other writer producers did multiple episodes. The folks that were doing In the Forest of the Night were only on that one.
Yeah.
It does seem very much like this is the final episode before we ramp up to the season finale.
And then we forgot about In Death in Heaven when Jenna Coleman is credited before Peter Capaldi and her face appears in the starfield. Further,
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, further cementing Moffat's obsession with Jenna Coleman or Clara. Let's go into potential companions that we have come across in this season. In Deep Breath, we maybe Courtney Woods. But no, not really, because we have the Potmaster gang who I sort of
say it. Sorry. Didn't we say at the time that it would be great if he had picked up Courtney when she was an adult? It's like, okay, he jumps 15 years into the future and then brings Courtney in as a companion. I think that could have worked.
But then also in Deep Breath, we have the Potmaster gang who I sort of lump into our pseudo companions already.
Yeah, I agree.
And then so in the next one is Into the Dalek. I thought Journey Blue had some promise, even though the doctor denies her request to come on board.
No, she would have been good. She would have been a good foil to the doctor,
but also a good, step in for the audience because she's new and knows nothing and isn't at that point to accept these things.
I also think that's why I like Kill the Moon, is because Courtney Woods becomes that surrogate audience member for us, where we haven't had that because Jenna Coleman is already used to traveling with the 11th Doctor. Anyway, that's just me jumping ahead a little bit. Robot of Sherwood, I guess Robin Hood. I don't know if anybody...
I would say... did he go into the TARDIS?
No, I'm saying these are potential companions.
Potential companions. Yeah, I would say so, because he's not like... He ends up not being the subject of the actual episode, and then he works in cahoots with them.
Yeah. And that scene where they're in the dungeon just going tit for tat. Imagine that for a whole season.
and there is a relationship arc that happens between him and the Doctor where they end up somewhere different than they were in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I have a confession to make.
Go ahead.
I wasn't in the podcast for this episode, so I still not watched it. I watched it when it first aired, and that's the last time I watched it. So everything you guys are talking about, it's like.
But you did give me your category was Die Hard.
That's what I remember of it.
I will say, Brian, that was another one that I did not want to watch it again. I remember hating it, and I ended up having a really good time watching it.
Yeah, I do need to watch it. I'll definitely watch it in the near future.
It's hard. And I know I repeat myself, but when you don't know where the episode's going, sometimes some of it's intolerable. And then in hindsight, when you do know where the episode's going, watching it again is extremely enjoyable.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in this season.
It would be cool to get a modern companion that is like out of the ordinary for like not contemporary. Like they did that before, right? Like there was
Adric.
Yeah.
Lena.
We'd be cool to see that in the modern day Who.
Victoria.
Jamie.
Is that
Polly.
Plato? Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just
There's
Yeah.
a lot.
What-
You know,
what-
just before I forget, I just want to say, I can't remember. Was it Eugene? Somebody said it was, Courtney became the voice of the audience.
Yep.
That. I think that might be a good overall problem with this season is there's no
Yes.
voice for the audience.
yes,
In this entire season, there's no
Yeah.
voice for the audience. And that's what the companion does. So not only is it bad to not have the voice of the audience, you've suddenly taken that traditional voice and made it the most important, all knowledgeable thing. You've turned it on its head and it doesn't work. I hadn't thought that was a good, I'm glad that was brought up because I think that could be one of my major problems with this. There's nobody representing me.
yeah, and I think that's why when we were talking about Kill the Moon, I'm like, why do I really like this more than we are discussing at this moment? And that's what's great about this podcast is that you have time to digest these things and percolate and then articulate them. And thank you, Ender.
He agrees.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I think is great about going through these episodes.
For this season, would that be Danny Pink? Would he be the closest to?
It should have been.
Should have been.
But he's the character who, like, everyone is lying to the doctor
Yeah.
and the companion. Like, so maybe that's why we didn't like it because we were getting that
Mm.
kind
Yeah.
of.
Stop insulting us.
Yes, yeah. Like you
Yeah.
keep saying, Clara, that you don't want to go back to the doctor, that you choose me, i.e. Danny, but then you do it. I don't know. So yeah, we're the ones getting lied
Rejected
to.
and
Yeah.
lied to, yeah.
Yeah, from all sides.
And disrespected.
Yeah.
It's not good. All right. Next episode is Listen. So I guess Orson Pink.
Aw,
Oh.
Andy.
The kid under the blanket.
So you're doing okay. And lying down.
Yeah,
he
I mean,
could have.
he could have, but there's nobody else really in that episode.
Yeah.
I say no. His whole idea was wanting to get home. He doesn't want this anymore.
Yeah, he wasn't like enamored by any of it.
And then next up is Time Heist. We had Sai and Cybra that were a part of the gang, if you will, to break in.
They both
I
could have
don't
been
know
good.
if either one. You think?
I thought. Yeah, I do. Because again, they would have been they would have brought a different energy, and also they are not contemporary. Maybe not both, but if they had picked one of them, I'd have been fine with
Yeah.
either one.
And then in the Caretaker, Courtney Woods again. I mean, she becomes a companion,
Yeah,
sort of,
No,
like by the definition
sure.
of a companion, by Kill
Yeah.
the Moon.
Right.
but I half expected her to stick around.
And I know, me too.
Yeah.
So then in Kill the Moon, we only have Ludwig and the other astronaut that eventually dies. So then Mummy on the Orient Express, Perkins, we agreed that he would have been okay. Then next up is Flatline, Briggsy.
Yes.
Yes.
I think he would have been good.
Yeah, I like
Mhm.
Riggsy.
And I think we're going to see him again in a small appearance.
Yeah, we will.
And then in the Forest of the Night, we had all the school kids, which some people may not want. But they did travel in the TARDIS
It's true.
to some comical effect. I just remember really, really smiling when the doctor's looking for Maeve and he goes to each kid like, Maeve.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite bits. It was one of
Yeah.
my favorite bits.
And then in Darkwater and Death in Heaven, we're just dealing with the people we've dealt with before. So I don't see anybody new.
Cyber
Yeah,
Danny might have made a good companion. That would have been
Oh.
that would have been a very awkward, odd couple.
Yeah,
It would have been Handles too.
Zombie Cyber Danny. Yeah.
handles too.
I say no to
Yeah,
Seth.
I
Dark
make a-
Water. Dark Water.
What's that?
There was somebody that should have been companion.
Aw,
Give me a hint.
they killed her.
I'll take a selfie for you.
Oh,
Oh,
Why-
no,
why
they
am I
killed the
blanking?
other one.
No longer wearing a scarf, but wearing a bow tie because bow ties are cool.
Oh, Osgood.
Osgood.
yes.
Yeah,
He
she
would have been a
totally
good
should have
companion.
been.
That's
And then
my
they-
least favorite death, I think, in all of
Yeah.
Doctor
Same here.
Who
Same here. It
at
was
this
just
point.
not because it happened, because it happened and it made her look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. She would not have followed. I got the
What
wrong
about
episode,
Kate?
Sorry.
What about Kate?
Well, we're gonna see her again, so I kind of
You know, to me,
Yeah.
she feels like a pseudo companion.
yeah.
She does. I don't know if I can put it into words, but I kind of like the fact that she's not a companion.
Yeah.
I kind of like
yeah,
she's really, really good, and I kind of like that she has that distance to this. She just pops in every once in a while and then goes back to unit. I don't know how much her character would age if we saw them every week.
Right.
True, but I really like her as a recurring character.
Yes.
Yeah, very much.
And I think that's why her being one note is good, because we need that one note every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And she makes unit feel less Orwellian. Like,
Yeah, she does soften it.
you know,
softens it up.
military. Like she kind of brings some humanity to unit, whereas they could just seem like this big SWAT army that no one likes.
Yeah, because previously when we've seen unit in the modern Who, the commander or the person in charge is always wearing a uniform, where she is wearing like business attire.
Right.
So I do like that change.
Usually when you see a character like that who's going against your main character, you kind of like, hey, don't say that to my main character. But
she pulls it off.
She pulls it off, but I never feel like angry at her.
No, I don't either.
Yeah. In a good way. I'm just saying,
yeah.
she's a good energy there, and I appreciate the difference, because it could have just been some soldier who's yelling.
Had you traveled in the TARDIS?
I don't think so. That's why I was
Not
like,
yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet. She will. And I was very happy at that point. It was just kind of like, she's an official companion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they casted her very well. It's a combination of her acting lineage, and I think that character's backstory as well.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of ingratiates us to her and whatever she does.
Yeah.
Anyway, any other final notes on season 8?
I think the baggage of Clara was what killed it for me. So if you just started with this
troubles
season,
with Clara?
Yeah, then you won't have some of that extra stuff from before. But yeah, it's a good way to start. It's a good season to start on.
So Doctor Who season 8 is available on DVD and Blu-ray, and currently it is available to watch streaming on Max, and in the the Blu-ray home entertainment release, whatever. There is commentary on Into the Dalek.
Oh, there is.
Robot of Sherwood, Kill the Moon, and that's it. So yeah, that wraps up season 8 of Doctor Who. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and we'll see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
Additional music is by Damiel Paggio.
All our episodes are engineered by Auburn, and you can find him at auburnbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts,
or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, subscribe to us on Amazon Music,
and then ask your Amazon device to play your podcast subscriptions.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who,
the longest running sci-fi show in history,
and especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell, Sidney Newman,
Verity Lambert, Ron Grainer,
and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.